82% of Palestinian children in East Jerusalem lived in poverty in 2010, a figure that fell to 45% of Israel children in the same area, according to United Nations Conference for Trade and Development. The finding echoed a report issued by an Israeli human rights group earlier this week, lamenting that the city's Palestinian residents were suffering the worst poverty rate of all time. The soaring poverty level among Palestinians were closely linked to the city's increasing economic isolation, United Nations Conference for Trade and Development said, maintaining that segregation policies, including the building of Israeli separation barrier, had left it integrated neither to the Palestinian economy nor to the Israeli economy. Israel insists the barrier is needed for security reasons, but it had met broad international condemnation for carving out large segments of West Bank, splitting families, separating farmers from their land, and slicing East Jerusalem off from their hope for future state. At least 7 people have been killed when fire swept through a garment factory in an industrial district of the Bangladeshi capital, Dhaka. Police and an industry association official said Thursday's fire, which broke out overnight in the Mirpur area, occurred 2 weeks after more than 900 people were killed in a factory collapsed outside the city. The fire broke out at a factory belonging to Tunghai Group, a large garment exporter, after most workers had gone home. The owner of the factory was among the victims, but there were no workers among the casualties, as there was no overnight production, police and fire service officials said. The victims died of suffocation after rushing to the stairwell and becoming overwhelmed by toxic smoke from burned acrylic clothing. On Wednesday, the Bangladeshi government said it has shut down 18 garment factories for safety reasons following April 24th collapse of Rana Plaza that housed 5 garment factories making clothes for Western brands. A group of lawyers representing cholera victims in Haiti has threatened to take legal actions against the United Nations. Reports from the UN headquarters in New York on Wednesday said the lawyers representing the victims and their families have presented a very clear message. They say they are giving the United Nations 60 days ultimatum in which to admit liability, pay compensation, or face legal actions. The outbreak has brought devastation to a population already struggling to recover from the 2010 earthquake that killed more than 300,000 people earlier that year. More than 8,000 people died and hundreds of thousands more were infected in the epidemic that followed and continued well into 2012. UN peacekeepers have been accused of sparking the outbreak, although the UN has refused to pay compensation to the families of victims of the cholera outbreak. The United Nations has repeatedly denied any responsibility for the cholera outbreak. Mahmoud Hammani, GoTel News.